The crypto market has seen a nice bounce over the past 24 hours, with Render actually being the third best performing altcoin in this time period, up over 12%. Now, in today's episode of the Everything Crypto Show, I want to break down why I believe Render has been and will continue to be one of the strongest performing altcoins from the top 100. Now, before we hop into the content, just a friendly reminder that I am not a financial advisor. I am simply here for your crypto news and entertainment purposes. And if you do enjoy the content, please consider hitting that sub and like button and turn that notification bell on so you can be notified when all of our latest videos go live on the channel. So we're going to get right into today's altcoin of discussion, and that's going to be Render, my personal favorite AI altcoin here on the channel. If you guys have been with the channel since last year, you know that we have been covering Render for quite a while now, and with good reason. I mean, if we actually mark this thing's performance from the beginning of 2023, this coin is up about 2,500%, and that is after a pretty big cool off from previous all-time highs on its run up to $13.50. This altcoin clocked just under a 3,800% gain. So Render has been one of the strongest performing altcoins out of the top 100. I do believe this trend is set to continue. But first, I do want to talk about why we saw the altcoin market bounce as a whole, as well as Bitcoin, and discuss whether or not I think that there will be a continuation of this move. And I think that the way the price action is turning out at the moment, that a continuation of this move or a potential continuation of the move is super important. And the big reason being that Bitcoin is pretty close to its cycle highs at the moment. In fact, if we take a look and measure it there, we're only about 7% off of all-time highs. So a continuation of a move like this that potentially sees Bitcoin hitting new highs would also have a big impact on the altcoin market and more than likely also bring that on its way to the upside. So we're going to talk about Render specifically. Actually, I lied. We're going to talk about what I think sent the altcoin market higher yesterday, first of all, and that would be the Consumer Price Index, as it held flat in May, though it increased it clocked a 3.3% gain from a year ago. So excluding food and energy, core consumer price index increased 0.2% on the month and 3.4% from a year ago, with respective estimates of 0.3% and 3.5%. So effectively, inflation data came in cooler than expected. The market is now pricing in some potential rate cuts. From what I understood from the coverage, Jerome Powell did say that they're not going to actually go ahead and cut rates until they suspect that this number can drop back to 2%. But actually seeing inflation numbers going in the right direction, I mean, we know the market is forward looking, so it's going to price that in before it happens. It's not going to wait for the rate cuts to occur to then start moving up. The market is definitely pricing in rate cuts at some point in the future with the price action we have seen. Now, more specifically pertaining to Render, okay, that's most of what I want to say about the altcoin market. The one other thing that I do want to touch upon here is Total 3. So Total 3 is the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin and excluding Ethereum. And if we take a look at the total crypto market cap, including everything, I mean, this thing looks much better than Total 3 does, and that's because Bitcoin has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting so far in this bull market. We did show a pretty interesting statistic the other day that only 8 of the big altcoins have actually hit their all-time highs on their Bitcoin pair, with Render actually being one of them. And if we take a look at the Render Bitcoin pair at the moment, I mean, it's still off of its all-time highs, but definitely not that far off, right? Like we can see here that it does still look to be in a pretty solid uptrend below the bull market support band, but overall, this thing long term, it does look to be moving in the right direction. So, specifically pertaining to Render, The one thing I did want to talk about is the fact that we saw the Apple WWDC conference on Monday. I said that there was a high probability that this event was going to talk about a lot of different AI use cases, and that Render could potentially be a big beneficiary of that as an AI coin, with some connections to Apple, with the Octane X app being powered by the Render network, actually running on their new iPads. And we can see here they did a lot. They actually, kind of coined AI Apple intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. And they are putting generative models at the core of the iPhone, the iPad, and the Mac. There was an announcement that they are going to be integrating ChatGPT and working with OpenAI to basically integrate their artificial intelligence into the Apple devices. And I think overall the market is kind of understanding and has understood for quite a while now that this is sort of like the next big catalyst, the next big growth prospect that could potentially help these companies grow revenues while also reducing costs by automating a lot more tasks. And that is definitely something that the Render network is looking to solve with their decentralized GPU infrastructure. So they effectively offer this blockchain marketplace for idle GPU compute, allowing people to basically tap into the Render network for these different tasks. And what initially started off as just content creation has now actually moved into AI use cases as well. So actually using this decentralized GPU power through the Render network for machine learning tasks. So, we have spoken previously. If I actually go ahead and go to the Render network's Twitter, I want to get their Twitter. So here's the trailer right here, talking about Apple and Render specifically. We've showcased it before, but in case you, if you are new to the channel, I do want to showcase this again just for some context, okay? So when Apple actually launched their new trailer for the new iPad here with the M4 chip, if we take a look at the trailer right here, just let it play out for a couple more seconds. Boom. This right here is the Octane X platform. This is powered by the Render network. You can see the logo right there. You can also see it right over here. It's they kind of like cheekily placed it on the cherry over there. But yeah, there is, just to see the fact that Octane X is basically Render's app in the App Store, and that Render network is the decentralized GPU network on the back end of this, is very bullish for this altcoin in my opinion. We've spoken as well about their connections with NVIDIA, obviously another massive story here in the stock market. And if you needed any more proof that the market is really just all in on AI at the moment, take a look at Apple, okay? This thing was kind of a laggard in the market for majority of 2023. If we take a look year to date, I mean, this thing was basically flat up until leading into the AI event, and then boom, we just saw the AI event take place, and Apple is now up 9% over the past 5 days, and has once again reclaimed its spot as the biggest company in the world, or briefly anyways. It might still be kind of neck and neck with Microsoft, but I think this is all the proof you need that the market is definitely all in on AI, okay? And, you got NVIDIA here once again hitting a new all-time high today. So I think that on the crypto side of things, Render being the biggest AI altcoin has been a huge beneficiary of this hype. And I do think it's warranted as well, because they actually do have a useful product that is effectively allowing anybody, no matter what machine or what GPU power they have, to tap into their decentralized GPU power for their AI use cases. And I do also want to take a look at the price action here, because I am seeing something very interesting with Render that I do want to point out. And the biggest thing here when it comes to the Render token specifically is really just the fact that we're seeing this coin at the moment kind of consolidate in between a very important area of support and resistance. So we do have the support coming in at the $8.80 level, and this is relevant because this is actually the prior cycle all-time high. So back in 2021, 880 was the all-time high price for this coin. We can see here that Render is holding above it, and I did actually go ahead and more recently put an area of support, which is now flipped into resistance at the $10 zone. And if we take a look at this $10 zone, I mean, you can see here that over 4 weeks, it basically bounced off of it as support before breaking down. And to me, this does make sense, just because the market does tend to like round numbers, 10, 50, 100, 500, 1,000, kind of like these key numbers. The market does tend to like, kind of validating as price action areas. So we have render kind of just floating in between this range at the moment. Now, interestingly, the one other thing I do want to point out is the fact that the bull market support band is actually also basically right at 880, right at those prior highs. So what I want to do is hide the drawings and just take a look at the indicator, okay? And pay attention to the bull market support band here. You're going to notice that, the render token has really been bouncing off of this bull market support band since November of 2023. Now, this is my personal favorite indicator to kind of evaluate whether the market is bullish or bearish. I've spoken a lot about it on the channel previously, but you can see that generally speaking, if you were looking at rejections on the bull market support band and selling at those rejection levels, you would have saved a lot of room to the downside. And generally speaking, buying on breaks back above the bull market support band have been pretty good opportunities to make money. Okay, so we bounced off of it here at $1.90, bounced off of it here again when we saw kind of like that big flash dip. We can say it was a flash crash. It was like 25-30% across the board in April, came back down to the bull market support band once, twice, 3 times, and now once again we see it back at the bull market support band with yet another bounce. Okay, so for me at the moment, I do think that render is still just bouncing, doing its thing, right? It is validating the bull market support band, trading in between key levels. Now, when I would start to get concerned about this price action would be on a potential dip below the bull market support band, and if we were to see that, at that point, I really think we're not looking at any serious area of support until about $7.50, and below that, we'd be talking about $5.30. Now, $5.30 is pretty significant in the sense that it kind of acted as rejection here in December of 2023. Render dipped back down to about $3.50, and then this thing rocketed up to new all-time highs at $13.50. But if the market does remain bullish on the back of inflation data coming in cooler, then, I do think that render probably wants to just go ahead and backtest that 880 and then continue grinding to the upside. So downside targets I am looking at on a break below 880 would be, let's call it $7 even, and below that $5.30. And upside targets here would be $10. And if we break above that, I would be looking for a run back to prior all-time highs that it did put in just in March of this year. Now, I do also want to take a look at the render Bitcoin valuation. I know we took a look at the alt Bitcoin pair, but I do think it's really valuable to take a look at all your altcoins on their Bitcoin pair. And you can see here that since the beginning of the bull market, render has in fact outperformed Bitcoin by about 477%. Okay, so at the moment, from its highs, this thing is down about 30% on its Bitcoin pair. However, if we go ahead and zoom out here and take a look on the key area I am looking for right now, and the one thing I'm watching, really there's 2 things. Okay, the render Bitcoin pair is below its bull market support band, and additionally, it is actually below its previous cycle all-time high over here. So, at the moment, it does look like Bitcoin may actually step up and outperform render in the shorter term. But in the longer term, I'm generally of the opinion right now that we are leaving that phase of the cycle where Bitcoin dominates. I think that we start to see money rotate into Ether and other alts. But when I say other alts, I really don't think this bull market will be like the last one where basically every altcoin goes up versus Bitcoin. I think there are way too many altcoins now, and there's just not enough liquidity for them to all outperform Bitcoin. So I'm much more selective in this bull market on what I'm actually looking at, and that's why I do kind of tend to cover a few central coins, and mainly render being one of them, because this is one of the few altcoins that has actually outperformed Bitcoin and actually surpassed its all-time high versus Bitcoin in this new bull run. So if we can see render kind of move back to the upside, break above its bull market support band, get above the prior cycle highs while holding its bull market support band on the USD pair, I do think that this coin will continue to be an outperformer in the market. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed the content in today's video. I hope you are all staying happy, safe, and healthy, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Peace out for now.